candy. Okay, on your formula paper, this is distance. This one is midpoint. We're starting on midpoint. Sorry if that is so annoying to you, but the first one is distance, and we're not starting with distance. We're starting here on midpoint. So when you find the midpoint, you're finding the average of the x values. Does anybody remember how to find the average? Like if I want our average ages, how would I do that? I would add all of your ages up and divide them by how many people are in here. So if you have a hard time memorizing formulas, there is so many, like Sarah said, we have had so many formulas. Don't memorize them. Think about where they come from. This one is finding the averages. Hey, where did you come from, little box? So I'm going to add up the x's and divide them by 2 because there's just 2 x values. That'll give me my x value. And to get my y value, I'm going to add up my y's and divide them by 2. Probably. Yeah, do this problem, here's your formula, and then do this problem in the little box, and then the rest of them you should put on a separate sheet of paper. Turley, will you turn your computer around or shut it all the way? Thank you. So I know you don't have a graph. I don't expect you to write a graph, but sometimes I think if we see what it looks like, it makes a little bit more sense. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so if I graph it and I'm trying to find the midpoint, it looks like it's about right here. Okay, I'm finding the average of my x's, I'm finding the average of my y's. So could this be something like the square root of 17? Does that describe that point? No. I'm always seeing weird answers like this. I am not sure where students get it from. I'm trying to be observant to see what mistake they're making. But this would make sense for the distance between 2 points. But for a midpoint, you're going to have an x and a y. Your answer will be an ordered pair on the grid. So if you think you might want to write that down, go ahead and do it. Okay, once we have our formula, you go ahead and you label. I always call the first ordered pair that they give me my x1 and my y1, and I always call the second one x2 and y2. Do you think that matters? I'm seeing some of you shaking yes and some of you shaking no. So is 3 plus 7 divided by 2 the same thing as 7 plus 3? Okay, what about with a negative? What about negative 5 plus 9? Divided by 2. Is that the same thing as 9 plus negative 5 divided by 2? So the order doesn't matter. If I walked around and maybe Paxton wrote x2, y2, x1, y1, so his equation will look different. As he solves, it's going to look different. We're going to get the exact same midpoint. So it does not matter. I constantly do the exact same thing because then I have a less likelihood of messing up. That's the main reason I do it. I would not do the graph, but you should write down this example in your little box. You'll want at least one in there. Okay, so let's go ahead and plug these in. Levi, what do I put in place of my x1 and my x2? Yes. Okay, any questions with that? Ashlyn, what do I put in place of, oh, oops. I messed that up, you guys. y1 plus y2. I hope you're writing in pencil. I put the numbers instead of putting the equation in there. We want a generic equation. We don't want just an example. No one caught me on that. Okay. Well, I won't say which numbers am I putting in there because I just had it. My x1 is negative 5. I'm adding that to my y2, which is 9. 9 minus 5 is 4, and half of that is 2. So this little part in here in the middle here is my ordered pair. Let's go see how I did on my guess. 5, 2. 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. I was a little bit too high. So the graph is helpful, but it's not as accurate, especially sometimes your midpoint would be like 5.5, 2.5. I would never guess that right. Okay, any questions on this one? Did everyone get the generic equation without numbers in it? Okay, I want you to try this one on your own. After I let you work for 30 seconds or so, I'm going to have you compare with your neighbor. Please don't show them your answer if you can see they're still writing down their equation. These ones should go in your separate notebook page unless you can write really small and squeeze them out to the side. And like I said, all of these are from the homework, so it's not a waste of time to write them down in your notebook with the answer. So when you get to it, you can just click the answer. So find the midpoint of these two endpoints. Hi, Bradley. I almost wore that shirt today. But I like this one better, and they're both black. Kind of confusing, huh? If it seems that you and your neighbor are at about the same point, please compare answers. See if you both have it set up the same way. See if you're getting the same midpoint. I'm going to graph my two endpoints. I'm going to try to estimate again. There's my estimate. Where should we put them? This looks like a good spot for those pins. All right. Lindy, what does your equation look like as you tried to find these? Yeah, yeah.
So I tried on the website -2 plus 4.
And what about for your y's? I'm kind of bringing the equal signs into the middle so that when I'm done, I have my ordered pair sitting there like a gift. All right, Paxton, what did you get for your ordered pair? You're not quite done yet? Okay, what's 4 minus 2? Yeah. What's 2 divided by 2? And Grace, what's 0 plus 9? What's 9 divided by 2? Oh, there's no way I was going to get that. Let's see what I chose. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. I was a little bit too low. So 1, 4.5 is the midpoint between -2, 0, and 4, 9. And we're finding the averages, the average of the x's. So here's how far it is from x to x. I'm finding right in the middle of that. And then I'm finding right in the middle from y to y. And I'm coming into that center point. I'm following. If you were to graph it, you would follow them in. Okay, we're moving on to a different idea. This one, we are finding the end point. So like looking back at this one, they're giving you one end point. They're giving you the middle, and they're not giving you the other end point. Yeah. I would not use the distance. That would be a lot of extra work. I would use the same formula. So I'm still going to use, well, I'm not going to write the whole thing down. We're going to use the exact same formula. Actually, I will write it down. x1 plus x2 over 2 equals x. And then my y is y1 plus y2 over 2. So exact same formula. But we have something else that's missing. So they gave me the midpoint. They gave me x and they gave me y. I would label your midpoint x and y, otherwise this is confusing. We've got 3 different x's and 3 different y's. And I would stick with my same thing. I would call this x1. I would call this y1. I almost called it x2. So what I don't have is this and this. That's going to be the other end point. So it looks like some of you are trying to write that down. I'll wait a second. Is there any room left in your midpoint box? If your midpoint box is full, you can flip your sheet over. There's 3 empty boxes on the back. You could put find the end point, because it's the same equation. So you can use the exact same one, but it just looks a little bit different. We're given different information. Okay. Once you have your stuff labeled, you will start to plug it in. So my x1 is 5. I don't know my x2. My midpoint is 4. Any questions with where I put those ones? Okay. Come over to my next one. My y1 is negative 6. I don't know y2. That's what they're asking me. But I do know the midpoint is the y value there. I think I just did something wrong. Oh, no, I didn't. 3. I don't know why I just put those there. That makes it look funny. Okay, these are 2 different equations. This is the great divide. Porter, looking at this equation, how can I find out what x2 is at that endpoint? How can I get this all by itself over here so I know its value? Yes. Somebody in 4th period said, why don't you take half of 5? I think that would be hard because we're dividing a binomial. So the 2 is underneath both of them. So if we can get rid of the 2 like all at the same time, that would be better. So this is dividing it by 2. We'll just times both sides by 2. So it'll become a 1. That kind of makes sense. So same formula. We are just putting in x1 and x instead of x1 and x2. Yeah, now we minus 5. So x would equal 3. So I'm looking for this end point. It's going to be 3. Let's try it with the y value. So it's very similar. We have to start out doing the same thing. So Tristan, what would I start out doing on this part of it? Is your name Tristan? Yeah, let's start out the same way. Let's get rid of that 2, the whole thing. So 6 equals negative 6 plus y. My 2 keeps getting higher. It's y2, it's not y squared. Macy, what do I do now? One more thing to get that y2 alone. Add 6 to both sides. y2 is 12. I think these ones are kind of fun. I can add and divide in my head. These ones are kind of fun. They're just 1/2 step trickier. Okay, I have one more example that I want you to try on your own. Once you see that your neighbor is done and you're done, please compare answers. If you're getting different things, try to find out where they're messing up. So here's your other, we're looking for the end point. We're looking for x2, y2. This is the midpoint. This is the end point. This is the comma. Oh, that's confusing. Maybe I shouldn't put. Yeah, don't put a comma. It looks like a 1. Okay, try to plug those in and solve for the missing end point. Okay, want me to turn in? Oh, I got you. Okay. Make sure you're writing down your answer so you can compare with your buddies. You didn't bring anything with you? Oh, did you think that after testing you didn't have anything to do?
No. But when I went into testing for like the last 2 days, I'm like, okay, well, I'll just run back out and grab my stuff after. And I never did that.
Oh, okay. So like I said, as you finish up, notice where your neighbor is at, and compare your problems, compare your answers. So Paxton will look both ways. Andrew's going to look both ways. Jeremy, you can compare left and right. You two compare. Tate, compare left and right. CJ, this is your buddy. His name's Porter. This is Tyler. Carnopus. Are you comparing with Sydney? And Levi? Did you guys get the same answer? Nice. Good job. You can compare with both neighbors. This is Martha. Have you met Martha? Okay. Yeah. Are you getting the same answers? Okay, I'm going to set mine up. We'll see if I mess it up. These are hard for me sometimes. My Y's. Oh, did I mess it up? Yeah. I already messed it up. Just going to try that again. There we go. This is hard. Did I get it right that time? Maybe. All right, Emma, what do I do to solve these two sides? Yeah, so I really need to get rid of that divide by 2. And actually, you're doing the same thing over here. Yeah? Logan, what about now? I'm solving 2 problems at the same time. There's a lot of side conversations, and maybe you're talking about this problem. But once I'm up here, let's end them. Okay, y2 is negative 13. x2 is negative 9. CJ, did you just dump his water in his face? This is what you get when you... This is how you lose the privilege of sitting by your buddy. Okay. We are now on the distance formula. So this is the first box on your paper. You can draw this picture if you want. You don't have to. The distance formula comes from the Pythagorean theorem. It will make your life a lot easier if you can see that connection. So if I find the difference in my x's, it's going to give me this value. It's going to give me a number. So that's how the distance formula starts out. And we don't leave it as d squared. Like the Pythagorean theorem says a squared plus b squared equals c squared. How do you get rid of the squared on the C when you go to solve it? So they're already taking it to the other side. That's what this ginormous square root symbol is for, is they're doing that from the beginning. Okay, so instead of C squared or D squared, they're doing a huge square root symbol on the other side. Then your A squared comes from finding the difference in your X's. So this is our A squared. Yes. Yes. No. You'd think with the subtraction sign it would matter, but it just doesn't. Because of the squaring, it all figures itself out in the wash. Okay? So this is A squared plus B squared. To get B squared, we find the distance between the Y values. So Y2. Now, I've always wondered why they do the 2 and then the 1. Every website you go to has it like that. I really wish it just said the 1s and then the 2s, but it does not. No one asked my opinion. Whoever came up with this did not think about us teachers teaching it to 15-year-olds, so they didn't think about that. 16, 15 and 16-year-olds, probably a couple 14-year-olds. Okay, so this is how you find that diagonal distance. A squared plus B squared will equal that distance squared. So it starts out the same as the other midpoint. I call my first ordered pair x1, y1, and I call my second one x. Oh my gosh, x2, y2. You could switch these. So if Emery wanted to name these x2, y2, and this x1, y1, you can. The only thing you can't do, this cannot be a 1 and a 2, and a 2 and a 1. The numbers come from the single ordered pair. That's the only way you can screw that up, is by switching them up. All right, once they have a name, you stick them in the equation. Excuse me. So Sarah, what numbers do I put in for x2 and x1? Yes. Just a sec. So all this stuff that I just wrote in blue never changes. It stays the same. Like if you could just stamp that on your paper, that looks the same every time. And then like Sarah said, then I can take my x's, my 2, and my -5, and I put them in. I should get a stamp made. Alyssa, what do I put in place for my y2 and my y1? Almost. If I put 4 and 6, it's backwards, right? And that does matter. If I do 2 and then 1, I have to do 2 and then 1. I can't do 2 and then 1 and then flop these ones. They have to be in the same order. All right, this is why I told you to get a calculator. Most of the ones, you just plug that into your calculator. It will tell you the distance. Big ideas gets fussy. Sometimes they want you to leave it under the radical. In that case, you would put this in your calculator and leave out the square root symbol. I don't know. I think that's the hardest part of the assignment, is you're not sure how they want the answer to be. So type it on in. If you don't have a calculator, go grab one and practice typing it in. Luke, do you need a calculator? Are you typing it in? All right, Addie, what did you get? And again, if you aren't sure what Big Ideas wants, try that. And then try that. If it says to round to the nearest tenth, clearly it wants you to put the whole thing in. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes it says, give me the exact answer, and it wants this. And sometimes it says, give me the exact answer, and it wants that. So I apologize that it's not more clear. It's just not. Where did the 53 come from, then? Yes, she only typed in her she didn't put the square root in the calculator. She started right here and just typed that part in. Okay. The last one, try this one on your own. These are all from the homework. So if you're like, I'm ready to start on the homework, it is the homework. You might as well just do it with us. Label them. I don't know, it's on the backboard. Oops. So yeah, this is just your stamp. Stamp, and then you plug in your X's and your Y's. Do I always do that? I don't know. Is that upside down? And that's the right side up? What about that? I guess I can just do all the ways. I'm like ambidextrous with my water bottle. So I want you to give me the answer in two ways. Give it to me as a radical, and then give it to me as a rounded to the nearest tenth. So Jeremy, what did you put here and here? Perfect. Now hopefully you did it the same. Emma, what did you put here? I promise if you did them both backwards, you'll get the same answer. It's kind of strange, actually. Ethan, what did you get under the square root? When all was said and done, what did you get under the square root? Not quite yet. Martha, did you get that part? Okay, I'll give you guys another. If you aren't quite there yet, if you typed it in wrong, will you try that inside part? So again, start typing right here. It'll give you this answer. Tate, what did you get under here? That's a lovely answer. 17, oh, sorry. Just pretend like that's not there. Does that find my iPhone? Oh, it stopped. Okay. And Martha, what did you get for this one? 7.8? Okay. I think that on the big ideas, it wants this one. I don't remember what the wording says, but it didn't accept that. Okay, you have the rest of the time. It's probably not going to take the whole time, so if you get done, work on missing assignments, work on the big ideas test, finish your blue one, start the blue one.